Provo, Utah. This is the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast with your hosts, Joseph DeGolier and Kaleb Schweiss. This is Ultima Final Fantasy. Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate in Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I am Joe.
I am Kaleb.
And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are putting Stormblood, Final Fantasy XIV behind us, and we are moving on to A King's Tale, if I'm correct. Or is it a King's Tale? King's Knight is the game they're playing in FF15. King's Tale.
Yes, it is a King's Tale.
Is the game available on the PlayStation Store for free?
If anyone asks me that at any moment in time, I will not know for sure. Because the game bullshittingly mentions another game, and this is a different name, and it's just too much. It's too much.
It's a little too much. But that game is supposed to be really short, so hopefully we'll have a review next week or the week after. But we have, over these last few months, Schweiss, gone from the end of 2.55 in A Realm Reborn through Heavensward, through the post-Heavensward content up to Stormblood, and then we defeated Stormblood.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm excited to just move forward with my life.
Yeah.
At this point.
I mean, the most...
So I'm quitting the show. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. This is a 2-minute episode. I'm done.
Yeah. So the big problem with...
Oh, you still wanted to record?
Yeah.
Okay,
so the thing about it is that we asked everybody what is necessary to play before moving out of Stormblood. And while we appreciate the suggestions...
we did a lot of it. We did
a lot.
Crystal Tower.
Yeah, we did Crystal Tower. We did
almost every dungeon.
Almost every dungeon in the game, except for the ones attached to the Hildebrand.
We tried a lot of the hard trials, the extreme fights.
Some of them whooped our ass, so...
There was Ultima's Bane, we couldn't do. We didn't do any of these things unsynced. We did them all synced.
Yeah.
And I say we did them as in we tried them.
Right,
so
yeah.
We didn't defeat them. We got close a couple times. But I don't know. We'll have more stuff to come back to next time because that will be a much shorter run.
Yeah, it will. I mean, I think we've put, if I remember correctly, I think we only had I'd say only, but I think it was 8 days or something like that of Final Fantasy XIV for me before, and now I'm at 14. And so that's all...
Almost doubled.
Yeah, almost doubled the time in 14, and that's just what we've been doing lately. I didn't jump on or anything after the fact. I thought I was going to, and I kept paying for my subscription, but I was like, no, I don't have time for that.
No, yeah, that subscription fee came in, and I did not like it.
No, because we're done now, and we just barely got charged, both of us, because our accounts are
Square.
A day off.
Can't you tell we're doing a podcast? We're just about to review. Can you just give us a bone here?
Yeah, please.
So one of the things I've been doing recently with my new job is I said, hey, I got to start working on being an adult because I just graduated college. And I'm like, I got to start financially start being an adult. So I'm starting to put away money for retirement. So I opened a TD Ameritrade account for a IRA because we don't have 401ks in my company. And I don't really expect for a little while to have any 401k option in anything. And so I started doing that, and I realized I could buy, because TD Ameritrade will let you buy in different markets as opposed to our little Robinhood app that we've been playing with on New Plan. You can hear us talk about that. Robinhood, I think, is only the New York Stock Exchange.
It is.
But the Japanese Stock Exchange is available on TD Ameritrade. So I'm going to buy a used nasty little share of Square Enix.
Secondhand.
So I can I don't know. I want to own just a tiny bit of Square Enix here.
Yeah, and then start making demands of them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a stockholder.
God damn it, I'm a stockholder. Anyway, That will happen on my next paycheck. I'm going to go ahead and waste $35 for a share of Square Enix.
That's not bad. That's a lot higher than most of the stuff we're seeing on, like, obviously on ours, but a little Robinhood app. Although you can.
No, yeah, because
anything.
we only put 20. Well, I put $20, and you put 25, and then I made mine 90. We only put a certain amount in there just to play with on penny stocks, but penny stocks are not. They're very volatile.
Oh, I know. I've been burned. So I understand.
They're just for fun. No one should ever put like large investments into penny stock, unless they're like a real. They get off on it, I guess, or an extreme gambler and can lose that money.
I think that's the whole point of them, though, is to buy like 500 or so shares,
and then hope it goes up by like 15% just randomly, and then just sell them off.
Yeah.
I'm
probably just gonna sell them now when they go up.
Because I made like $4 like in the first week I did the app.
Yeah.
Now I'm like sitting at negative $4.
Yeah, me too.
I put all my money. I put all of it into. I shouldn't have put all of it into one thing, but I put them all into some ETF that's kind of in a slump. But I can see that it's like a gradual uphill sort of thing. So I'm waiting for it to just slowly, make my money back.
One of mine got pulled from the stock exchange.
No,
and it sucks because it earned like a couple. I think it was like 20 cents up the day before, and then it just like plummeted.
So
I was pretty pissed.
So saving for retirement and also gambling, part of my thing, and I will be a part Square Enix stockholder in the next 2 weeks.
Well, that is very exciting.
Yeah,
so
I know.
We haven't started a King's Tale.
Someday I will own it all.
Yeah, slowly you'll just buy all of their stock out and then make moves, maneuver their company for them.
That's right.
So neither of us have started. I've started the next game, which will be the King's Tale, and that's going to be the end of season 2, one of the Uber seasons from Ultima Final Fantasy. Not as long as season 1, of course.
No,
but still long in its own right. I think it has to be close to a year now because we had all that. Yeah, no, it's definitely been a year.
It's over that
because
it's like a year and a half because we started. I think
we started on After Years, and that was a while back.
Must have been early 2016.
Yeah, so. Quite the Uber season.
Seeing my life get passed by in podcast form.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
It is nice though. Like if you pass away, your children, if you have any, will be able to look at your backlog of episodes and be like, "Wow, Dad cursed a lot. And it's really inappropriate and said really horrible things, while also talking about this video game and never talking about me."
Yep. It'll be great. A good experience for everybody. I'll be dead. You won't have to worry about it.
At least you'll be able to hear their voice. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. It is like an endless slog. Unless, of course, we all die and then the Libsyn account stops getting paid for.
Oh, shit.
We'll make sure to put it in the estates account, though. So all the
the
podcasts.
The Nude Clan estate.
Yeah, all the podcasts stay live.
Anyway, so today we are reviewing Stormblood. One of us made a mistake last week and didn't put up user reviews.
Yeah, sorry guys
for Stormblood, so no one had a place to do that. Although I can tell you, I think a couple of our listeners had some opinions, so we'll just have to kind of reiterate that in a really shitty fashion later on. But anyway, if you want to talk about it, I'm ready to dive in. We can talk about development.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, so there's not much development talk for Stormblood, as is kind of expected. It was kind of the same thing for Heaven's Word. Basically, it's the same people who worked on A Realm Reborn, and they're just continuing to work on the game until they have a new release. But anyway, Stormblood was released on June 20th, 2017, not too long ago. And two things happened that would shake up the FF14 world forever, basically. One was that Stormblood was released. The other that the service for the PS3 version of the game with that release was officially ended.
Finally.
Not
God.
that any person worth their mettle in that game was actually still using the PS3 version.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like it might be a similar situation to playing on PS4 because someone brought this up to me. I think it might have been Craig, and I was playing and I was complaining about how my hotbar was so tiny compared to the PC guys, and he was like, "Well, that just makes it harder. You're just playing a harder version of the game."
In a way.
And so I'm thinking that the PS3 version of the game is even harder because it takes forever to zone in and out of areas. So that is expert. That's FF14 on expert level. Having to put up with that shit.
So yeah, I actually kind of agree. It's one of the things that I get bugged about is that the guys on, it's not their fault because they're all playing on PC, I'm pretty sure. They're always saying, hey, you got to have this spell, use this spell, sprint, yada yada. I'm like, I don't have enough fucking room on the one dealio to have everything I need for White Mage. So like arrow gets disincluded in my regular rotation area. Sprint is not on there either, which has killed me a couple times. So there is something to be said about having like 4 extra buttons.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
So, there is. Yeah, it probably would just be better to play on PC, but I kind of like the sitting with the controller and playing. I don't know. I don't have a good office chair. That's something that needs to be.
Yeah. Well, that end, I mean, you could hook your computer up to your TV and just hook a PS4 controller up to your computer and then relax. Of course, you could just play the PS4 also.
Yeah.
So, plus you get, a trophy.
Get the nice PS4 chat, can talk to the old fat man. And
yeah, and you get a trophy every, 5 days of gameplay from 14.
True. Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah, there is something. I mean, I think when I was a kid, because my mom didn't allow me to have video games till I was like 15, for some odd reason there was a difference between the computer games and video games, which is bullshit. Yeah. But there's a giant hypocrisy there, and I'm pretty sure that me doing video game podcasts, playing video games all the time is like her worst nightmare right now. But I don't know. I was kind of I guess I was a PC player by default for a long time, but now I'm kind of the opposite. I don't really want to. I want to use my computer for like my digital media sort of stuff and have the PS4 to play video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I won't play on the other thing, but
right. I mean, if you have the option of one or the other, you usually choose the console. Yeah, the console. There's a couch ability there that is easier. You don't have to like use a mouse and like you don't have to be the octopi selecting things in the PC in order to get it moved over, have the keyboard on your lap, which I think is super uncomfortable. Yeah. You can just have the beautiful made for video game controller in your hands. That's true. Yeah, so that is true. It is just a small preference. Anyway, isn't that what you hooked up for 11 though? Is the PS4 controller? I did, and it was I don't know if I know we went over this like 12,000 times, but it was the saving grace of FF11 near the end. Yeah. It was beautiful. Should have done it from the beginning. Should have listened to Baindrum a long, long time ago. Yeah. Anyway, so this expansion, Stormblood, the game we're actually talking about today, would feature new areas covering the city-states of Alamigo and Doma. On top of that, the level cap was increased from Heavensward's level cap, which was 60, increased from 50 from the original Realm Reborn. It was brought up to 70. The game was tweaked on all classes right when it was released, which we did discuss on the show when it happened. Some classes were made more simple, like the White Mage was definitely a more simple class. And then other classes, I guess, have more moves and a little bit more complex in their kind of rotation. But they tweaked a few things, got rid of a few spells that were available before. But the gameplay overall is kind of pretty standardly similar. Yeah. Just some like virus I don't have anymore for White Mage, shit like that. Virus, if you're listening to this in the future and you're like, what is virus? It was just another kind of spell to bring down health from a monster over time. Oh, okay. So damage over time. Yeah, damage over time. But I guess we already had Arrow. Yeah, that's kind of weird that they would have a second one. Yeah. But so I think the gameplay was kind of simplified a little bit, but only a little bit. Like it's just like maybe
5% more simple.
Yeah, I mean, I know why they did it, though, now that we've beaten the thing. Because you can't be... some of the stuff before would just take too long, and you don't have time to just stand there.
Right. You don't have time to stand anywhere in some parts of this game.
Pretty much, yeah.
2 new jobs also added, the Red Mage and Samurai. And also added, kind of like what they did with Heaven's Word, where you had the flying mechanic.
Yeah.
At least you don't have to pick up a bunch of shit in order to unlock the flying mechanic in this one, but you can dive.
Yeah, it's essentially flying reversed. So they were like, it's like the same mechanic, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. So that's really all I have in development. The Yoshi P is still behind the whole thing. Soken is still behind the music.
Right. So we got a nice new track from wow, I'm drawing a blank.
Nobuo Uematsu.
Yeah, Nobuo, and then Susan Calloway.
Susan Calloway doing the vocals as well.
Yeah, I liked it a little more at the end. But
I still felt kind of lukewarm towards that track, but I think we should talk about that in music.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to the old story. Okay, so I have... there has not been much written on Stormblood. We did play the story. There's just a lot of shit in the story of Stormblood. And it's hard to remember it all, so I usually look up some sort of summary. And I found this summary on endgameviable.com. And it's pretty short and sweet, so it's about what we need. But we will get into some details that she doesn't remark upon in a second here. So, our story begins with the events at the ends of Heaven's Word. The Alliance finds itself battling the Garlean Empire at Baelsar's Wall. The Alliance wins at the wall, but balks at the prospect of marching north to liberate Gurabanya from the Empire without the consent of her people. The Alliance requests Lys, our Ida sister, a native of Alamigo with contacts in the Resistance, and the Scions of the Seventh Dawn to negotiate on behalf of the Alliance. We do some errands for the locals in Gurabanya to gain their trust and their consent to fight the Garlean Empire, but just as the Alliance, led by the Flame General Rauban, plans to take the Garlean stronghold of Veladania, Veladina. How do you say that one?
It's probably Veladina. I've always said Valdania, but
Veldania,
I was just quickly reading it, and I didn't give a fuck.
Well, it's like Gridania. Like
I think
right,
that's what it was, yeah.
I don't know if anybody said it in voice-acted cutscenes, and if they did, I just...
Veladina is what it looks like, though.
Yeah. The Empire attacks the Resistance base at Raugo's Reach, and delivers a resounding defeat for the good guys. Even the Warrior of Light is no match for the Garlean leader Xenos.
Yeah, Xenos.
Okay, so we're talking about the beginning of the game right now. There were actually some other things that happened around here. One is that we're getting notions of sort of repressed people. So there's a lot of violence towards peasantry, and it's clear, and it makes it very clear actually in this game in this expansion as opposed to some of the other expansions, what the Empire's effect on the people actually is.
Yeah, before, I mean, the Empire was almost like a Star Wars Empire where like, oh, they're just evil. Like, oh man, they're just so bad. And like, you don't really see them being bad that often.
Taxes, damn it.
Yeah, you just see them like being bad to these particular people.
Yeah, they did a planet. They took
that is
planet.
True. Once the planet,
you never see them being bad except when they killed everybody.
Yeah,
on the planet.
Which I mean, come on,
Alderaan.
Yeah, Alderaan's a shithole, right? But they were asking for it, okay. But
definitely a shithole now.
Yeah, but for the most part, I mean, earlier on, it's like the Empire is just like, oh, it's just a bad thing. Like,
the Empire. Something I did complain about in one of the other expansions, probably the first one, like Realm Reborn or 2.55, is that like we hear about this Empire, we still haven't gone into the Empire really.
Yeah, and then we fight random guys from it, and it's like,
And it's like, I guess they're evil.
Yeah, I mean, we fought Nero, and he's a pretty cool character now. But before, he was like he was just a bad guy. Like it was set up to where like, okay, now here's the good guys. Okay, you got good guys. Okay, now here are the bad guys. All right, now go. And it wasn't interesting. It wasn't engaging necessarily, except for the fights, obviously. But even then,
the threat wasn't real.
Yeah, the threat is real now.
The threat is more real in this one. It's still, an MMO, and you have to be able to run around. It's not like an FF10 where, of course, in the Japanese edition of the original game, at least, you couldn't go back to areas where you were considered, like an outlaw.
Yeah.
But it's an MMO, so you kind of still have to be able to go everywhere, so you can't really have that kind of situation. Is this you will get banned on Twitch by playing this song.
I know. Well, I won't get banned. I'll get muted though.
Oh, okay.
And I probably already did for the 2 seconds that took.
Oh, do you remember when you were streaming and there was like 1 second of a Megadeth song played and it just cut it off?
Yeah,
and
I do.
There was an echo going on, so it just kept repeating the one.
Yeah. It was King. That's what it was. Joe and I, oh my God, dude.
King.
Joe and I were like we were on chat and we were fucking like setting up the new website, the one that we have now, and like the thing was going and I paused it. I was like, oh shit. And I was like, it just said like King. It was one of the Megadeth songs, and then like it just, I don't know what was happening, but like it just kept getting more and more distorted, and it was like King, and then like King. We're like trying to set this thing up. We're just laughing our asses off, and then like Joe's laugh would come through, and then that was like getting like repeated and distorted. It was just like, and then King, and then it was just fucking like everything was just turning into like mumble by the end.
It was the computer not being able to handle all the sound that was being looped over and over again and amplified because it was doing it. It was great.
It was, dude, that was fucking hilarious. I could not stop laughing at that shit.
So Xenos, right at the beginning, and there's you fight him I think 3 times, maybe 4 times in the game.
Yeah, you fight him a lot.
And the first 2 times I remember, he's like this crazy powerful thing that like you fight for a little while and you're just going to lose the duty.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. Then the 3rd fight with him near the end, you do a lot better, but the game continues on, and then you finally fight him at the end of the final dungeon, and it is
it's
something else.
It is sick. I can see why people want it nerfed, but I think it should stay the way it is. I thought
it was the Shinra fight after that. That was
that's the one they were talking about. Yeah,
the other one I can believe being nerfed as well.
Well, he does get like absorbed into Shinra though, so I mean it's kind of him. But
sure. Anyway,
but yeah, the other one was fucked up. Also, like we spent a lot of time just dying and retrying the mechanics in these last 2. So this guy's hardcore.
So after you gotta get your ass kicked. The locals in Gurubanya are licking their wounds. Lise and company sail far to the east. This is a theme in this expansion, a lot of sailing to the next area.
Yeah.
They sail far to the east to gain support from Doma and open up a second front in the fight against the Garlean Empire. On arriving in the city of Kugane, we discover that we can't reach the Doman territory until we dislodge the Empire from a town called Isari. So after some trials and tribulations under the sea, which is literal, under the sea.
Yes.
Which I thought might have been the stupidest thing in this entire game, is the Phantom Menace-esque water breather thing to get to the Star Wars-esque creatures who live at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
They're Ninja Turtles, right?
They are pretty much, little turtle people.
Anyway, I thought this part of the game was kind of dumb. But, it did expand the game a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
We enlist the help of Kojin the Blue, which is, once again, a Ninja Turtle. And even the person who wrote this said it was a Ninja Turtle, so that's nice. We all know what we saw in this game. And the Confederacy to liberate Isari. So finally arriving in the Doma territory of Yanxia, We find the people in no good mood to fight. Having suffered under 25 years of oppression from the Garlean Empire, we seek out Lord Hein, the rightful ruler of Doma, to inspire the people. Hein lives in hiding in the Azim Steppe, a place populated by 3 warring tribes. By fighting in a ritual Nodham battle, Hein and our merry band build even more allies for the fight to free Doma from the Garlean Empire. Hein returns to Yanxia with his new coalition willing to reclaim the Doma Castle and the rightful rulers of Doma. Finished in the east, Lys and the Scions return to Gur Albania stronger than ever, ready to tackle the Garlean Empire once more. We find Raban and the Alliance and the Resistance pressing the assault into Alamigo territory and racking up victory after victory against the enemy. In the end, we storm Alamigo Castle and face off against Xenus and then Shinru. Okay, so there's a couple things that are not in this write-up. Number one is we actually have 2 bad guys in 2 different parts of the world, but one is more of a henchman than the other one. So Xenus is kind of the big baddie in the whole game. He's almost someone called him a Sephiroth ripoff. I'm not sure if that's really accurate. He's just kind of got long hair and is bad. Yeah,
and kind of effeminate, but
sure,
that's about it.
But mostly in his looks. He's not really effeminate in any other aspect.
No. The guy carries around like
He does wear eyeliner.
And he does have
eyeshadow.
He does have like a very poofy dress on, but I mean, he just doesn't care. I think that's what it is. He's like waiting for people to mock him, and then he just cuts him down.
Maybe, but I did read that, what is that, Robert Greene book, The Art of Seduction.
Yeah.
And he talked about the allure of people that had just a little bit of the opposite sex in them. He called it the allure of the dandy is what he called it, and he referenced a whole bunch of historical shit about it. So mostly how I took it was like, oh, a guy wears an earring and it's like alluring or something.
Yeah.
Because generally earrings are seen, at least here in the States, as something that's feminine.
Yeah.
But
what about
not really for the last 20 years, I guess, so maybe that was incorrect. But at some point it was kind of that way. And so like there'd be an allure there, or a guy with like long feminine hair, like a Fabio. But Fabio is he obviously gets laid a lot.
Yeah.
So, or like a girl who's like a tomboy type thing. Like,
right, yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe people like Emma Watson with her cropped hair more than Emma Watson with the long hair. I don't know. It's something in that sort of weird category.
Yeah.
So maybe he just gets laid a lot. That's
he probably
really
does. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. The guy, he does seem a little on edge, but it's more like a just overall insanity, and he's just like always almost bubbling to the surface, and then when it does, he just starts killing everybody.
Nice.
He also carries around like a golf bag of swords. I noticed, like he's got.
He does. He has like a spinning.
Yeah, it's like a
revolver thing. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
weird. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna work on my short game, and he like pulls out his little pitching wedge and just hacks someone down. Like beautiful shot right there.
Short game. Wow.
Let's bring out the putter.
So there's him, and he's the big baddie.
Right.
But then we also have Yotsuyu, who I thought was the big baddie.
The chick.
But really was just the 007 henchman.
Yeah.
But she, I thought, was really strong for the first of 2/3 of the expansion of Stormblood.
Yeah, she's really relentless. I mean, we find a scene of her like with a couple of the Domans, and she's like, well, I mean, I don't think you guys are loyal to our cause. And then like she grabs one dude's father and like brother or something and just shoots him and like kills him right there. And she's like, all right, now you have to kill the rest of your family.
Cold.
Yeah.
I think even more cold than Xenus.
Yeah, she's more open about it, at least.
Ruthless, and the lady in the write-up put that she's like Cruella de Vil. I didn't really draw that
maybe with the long
later.
Cigarette. Like
there's the long cigarette.
Thing.
She wears a lot of makeup, and she's like this dark, black and white and red sort of character. So I can kind of see it. I thought she was excellent, and I was almost disappointed when, spoiler alert, she fucking dies 2/3 of the way through the thing. Now, she does take another character with her, which is one of the stronger parts of this expansion. What do you feel about that section, Twice?
I thought that was the peak of, I would almost say, Final Fantasy XIV for me. I was like, this
really?
is a good story point right here. This is great.
Yep.
Because there's a part where the samurai man that you've been with for a while, he's been awesome. He's a great character. He's the guy I was really applauding at the end of Dragon Song War.
The Scottish samurai.
Yeah, the Scottish samurai, which is what we know him as. What the fuck is that guy's name again?
I can't remember. It's a really Japanese name for a Scotsman. That's what it is.
Oh, shit. Hang on one sec. I gotta get his name. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank with this.
Yeah, you liked that character a lot. I thought Xenos' fight, though. Here's what I thought happened. I thought the first 2/3 of the story of Stormblood were just as strong as Dragon Song War, if not stronger, up to that point. And then I thought it kind of slumped just after Yotsuyu, the main bad chick. After she was gotten rid of, I thought that the game kind of slowed down. And that's honestly like also my amount of misery playing this game for many, many months for a lot of hours per week also was at its peak at that point. So maybe it's just me, but I thought that the story slowed down because now it's just like, okay, let's gather our troops and go storm the castle. But I will say that the final dungeon, the final fight with Xenos, and then the final fight with Shinru afterwards were also, although the story wasn't really going or being that very interesting for me after that point, that section was really awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I kind of agree and disagree at the same time. It's Gosetsu, that's the guy's name, by the way. I think the parts with Gosetsu were really cool. I thought it was kind of a great approach. Like you said earlier, we hadn't really seen the impact of the Empire on the realm quite as much in our limited play. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in this game that we still haven't done.
Right.
But I think Bahamut is going to be a little different. That's the Asians garbage that they're trying to pull. So I don't think that'll affect the Empire as much. But we finally get to the ground level, like ground zero, and see exactly what this has done to these people. Like, I thought it was really cool seeing Lise come down and be like, hey, I'm from Doma, and I think we should totally liberate ourselves. We should fight. And then everyone's like, well, no, we shouldn't, because we're just going to die, because we all suck. We've been here for 20 years. We've been held captive for 20 years, ruled over, so we haven't really been like preparing for anything. None of us know how to fight. We don't have any weapons, really. It's like a real like revolutionary war type of scenario, except for in this case the America lost, basically, or is losing, and they don't have any weapons. All of it was taken away. They didn't fight back hard enough because the Empire is way better, and now no one wants to join with the resistance. And I thought that was a really cool aspect of the story. And I do agree. I think the high point for me, other than the ending, which was great, was when Gosetsu was there's like a big, where you basically, one of the interesting things you do, like your Doma castle gets like taken over, right?
Right.
And Lord Hyan that's his home, that's his castle, basically. He's the ruler here, so like it's a big deal. And he's like, well, the only way we can really take it is by fucking flooding it and destroying it. So like he goes in, he gets like a bunch of ships, and this thing gets rocked. Like it was instantaneous almost. I'm like, wow, it's probably a good thing you don't live there, dude, because if anybody wants you dead, it's over. So you go in, we blow up and flood his castle, and then that's when you do a little dungeon in there, and it's a great dungeon, weird soundtrack, and you get to the end, and there's a part where Gosetsu is like holding up a giant piece of the building that's going to collapse, like inhuman amounts of weight coming down on this guy, and he's like holding it, and he's like, all right, everybody get out of here. And this part I'm kind of mixed on. I think it was really great thematically, but I think the execution of it was a little bit much. And I only say that because the guy's like holding this giant weight, right? And we're just sitting there having a conversation. Like, he's like, all right, guys, you got to get out of here. And like, everyone just wants us to
the
chat.
Conversation does go on for a
And I'm like,
time.
Guys, we have to go.
It's like FF14 can't help but make the cutscene go too long.
It can't.
No matter what.
Stormblood is better.
It is better.
But it still does it. And this is a moment where I'm like, what the fuck are you guys waiting for? And then we've got Yotsuyu. She's like in there too because she was the one in the castle occupying it.
Right.
And she's wounded and she pulls out a gun and like he's holding up this thing and she ends up shooting him a bunch of times and so he's getting really weak and then finally we have to leave him behind and then the castle comes down and like crushes the two of them. And we think they're gone.
Just pancakes.
Yeah, we think they're all dead, but if you wait until after the credits, there is a scene. There is a scene with Gosetsu on an island fishing. He caught a fish, and he walks back, and she's there too. So they're both alive.
When I pressed skip, it skipped that as well.
Well,
I have no idea what.
There's
the hell
a wait. What did you press skip on? The credits?
The credits.
Oh, there's the rest of the quest still. The dungeon and the giant cutscene and all that. That's not all of it. There's still
remember that.
There's still post.
No, I did the quest there. I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's a little cutscene with.
I literally do not remember that.
Yeah, so they FF4'd us where they did a good sacrifice scene and then they kind of pulled it back.
Well, fuck that. Well, that just makes me mad. Look, I was fine with the game right before.
Yeah, I think that does take away some of the impact, but I did really like the character.
Unless
whereas,
you just weren't paying attention to the last little part after the final battle.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
but it did have more impact, and I think it was still better done than FF4 because they were taking away characters that I didn't care about as much. I didn't think were quite as great as Gosetsu.
Sure.
So it was like almost like why are you even doing this? Like, why bring him back? I don't even care about the twins, really. Like, come on. But this guy was awesome. So I'm like, it does cheapen it, obviously, but still a great scene. And I would say the highlight of the playthrough up until the very end.
Okay. Sure. I can dig that. Yeah, I thought as far as expansions go, it was pretty darn strong.
Yeah.
And it was strong through most of it, I would say as well, which I can't say for any of the other expansions. Dragonsong War, of course, the actual Dragonsong War section was really strong. Then I thought the other two sections were lacking a little bit, although, they were still okay. But yeah, Stormblood, I was told by Krinital, friend of the show, that it did improve a lot of things in the story, and I will have to agree that as far as storytelling in FF14 goes, still not perfect, and there are some very good high points in it, but it is just overall like pretty good.
Yeah, I think this is the best effort they've done so far as far as the story is concerned. I think it was a lot better balance. They cut back on a lot of the nothing quests. I mean, there were still a lot of quests in this game.
Oh, there's still plenty of nothing quests, twice.
Yeah, but they cut back on the nothing dialogue for sure. I don't feel like it was quite as
maybe it just didn't
steeped in it.
Well, maybe because it was better, it didn't feel as long. That is something that FF9 has a shitload of dialogue, but we still go through it just fine. And FF10 is kind of the same way, and most of us can go through it just fine unless you're Caleb Craig. And so, maybe it's just better storytelling equals you can afford a longer cutscene, but overall I felt the cutscenes felt shorter and thus better.
Yeah, I mean, we had like
in this game.
Yeah, we had a couple weird side plots, like they were worried they were going to kill off Kryl, and they had her captured, and then we also had the almost like Mako infusion thing that they did to that one chick, where they basically gave her superpowers, and that was like something that they were like
the Terminator eye.
Yeah, that was something they were kind of touting. And I assume that's obviously what they did to the leader, because that's why he's such a freak.
Yeah.
So there were a couple cool other little things in there, but yeah, I think overall this expansion storyline I think is a lot stronger than anything in the game so far. And I'm glad of that because, I mean, it took us a long time to finish Stormblood. Like, I think it's been at least a month, right? That we've just been on Stormblood.
Like 3.5 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, lots of hours at the very least. So, I mean, we've been really crushing it out, and I think it was satisfying for the most part, and that's why we were able to do it the way we did instead of taking longer. So
good. All right, well, let's talk about a little bit of gameplay. Schweiss, did you try any of the new classes, Red Mage or Samurai?
No, I didn't. I was gonna do Samurai because I don't know. I like DPS, and I wanted to try something new, but I just didn't have time. And it's kind of disappointing, honestly, because when you get a new class like that, it starts at level 50, so you don't have to level it up quite as much as you would your original class.
Right.
It's end of the original game leveling, and then you kind of go forward from there. But I didn't touch either of them. They are very overpowered, as far as I can tell. Like Red
it's
Mage,
the new class. It's got to be OP.
Yeah, Red Mage has an ability to just auto revive. Samurai does a shitload of damage. I think way more than I do. I'm not perfect on my rotation though, according to the internet. But I stuck with Black Mage just because the leveling does start to take some serious time in this game. Like it's pretty intense. I do regret it though, because we did a lot of level 50 dungeons, and I probably could have just done Samurai and like equipped Samurai to get XP for those level 50s.
I think you probably could have, yeah.
And I would have lost out on some for my Black Mage, but it wasn't that much XP. Like no. It's nothing compared to a daily. So
no. I do like how in this game, the experience, or in this expansion, the experience and main story quests, they're a lot closer together than they were for A Realm Reborn, and even in Heaven's Word, there's a lot less leveling that needs to be done in between, which is really nice.
Yeah. It's nice to just be able to sit down and go through the story. Like on our 14-hour streams that we did 2 of them throughout this playthrough, which is sick. We didn't level ever, I don't think.
I leveled a couple times. At the end, we had to do 2 dungeons.
Yeah, at the end we had to do
And then there was
some
another
dailies.
section in there where I had to do like 3 dungeons. But
oh, okay. I was pretty ahead of the curve for most of it.
Yeah.
Until the end when I was behind somehow. But yeah, it's nice to have an expansion that you can just run through the story and have little to no hiccups along the way. Now, one of the other things that we have in gameplay, which is something that was added a while ago, that I actually started getting into, is the ether current things.
Jesus fucking Christ.
There are like weird little
fuck that
arrow-looking spells floating around, and like attuning to them gets your character the ability to fly. Like
there's a shitload of them. The areas are huge in this expansion.
The areas are massive, yeah.
So you do have to run around for a long time.
Right, but you do have something that tells you the direction of the nearest ether current, though. So, I mean, you can go hunt them down.
I'll say 20,000 yalms to the west.
Yeah. So there was that I did a lot of, and it was kind of nice because there were a few areas that I would get the last ether current through the main story quest, and then I would leave the area. But then there were like three or so areas that I didn't just leave the area, and then like when I came back to it, I was able to fly, and it was super fast compared to just walking around. So that was nice. Some of those are actually tied to side quests in the zones too. So like I would snag a couple side quests, and I think that was why I was ahead on XP, is because I probably got like a couple million just snagging those little side quests along the way just to get the ether currents. So that's a good way to go about it, but it isn't 100% necessary, obviously. There are a couple dungeons that we needed to fly to be able to get to. A couple of those optional ones.
The optional ones.
But you can get a ride. So
that's right. Damn straight you can get a ride from
old Roxo.
Side-sidle Roxo.
Yeah.
I'm side-sidle. A side... Jesus fucking... I can't talk today. All right. So, about your rotation, explain... Because I don't think we've talked about this much in 14. Explain what a rotation is, and explain how it has changed for you in this game, because White Mage has pretty much stayed the same. It's Cure 1. Occasionally you get a free Cure 2. Use that, and then you have your defensive spells, and then your kind of area effect spells and shit like that.
Yeah. So the rotation is for Joe. I mean, it's basically keeping everybody alive, and your rotation is really simple because it's just Cure until you get a Cure 2 proc, which is like an auto free spell, and then you cast that. And then
if there's some giant AoE, you got to use Medica 2, I guess, as opposed to Medica, which is what I was using because MP's not as sick. And then every once in a while I got like Fluid Aura, which is mostly for myself, and it's not really for White Mage. It's very simple, but for Black Mage there seems to be like a lot of intricacies involved. So you should explain what it was before and what it is now, because I want to know.
So before, for me, it was kind of just open with Lightning or Thunder 3, I think, or 2, whatever it was at the time, and then just spam Fire until I got Fire procs, and then just kind of keep on the Lightning. And I would do the Lightning during my Umbral Ice, which is like when I switch to Ice spells, I get blue orbs above my head, and that's when I'm regenning MP.
Okay.
And I would do the AoE attack then, and then like I would get one last little tick of MP before my Fire would come back, and just switch it to the Fire mode, where I don't gain MP, but I start doing more damage.
Okay.
And now it's, I guess I'm looking online, and one guy's rotation is Blizzard 3, Enocean, Thunder 3, Blizzard 4, Foul, which I don't use, Fire 3, Fire 4 times 3, Fire 4 times 3, Blizzard 3, etc. That's the one that he says the basic single target rotation is for that. What I usually...
So basic.
Yeah, what I ended up doing in the end, because I don't use Foul, I don't know. I probably should try the full build that I found. Yeah. It was like ridiculous, though. But the idea for me is the objective is to just deal as much damage as you humanly possible as quickly as you can. So by the end, I figured out that it's kind of sad that it took me that long. I figured out that I could actually... I have this move that basically swaps my Umbral stage. So what I would do is I would go in and I would hit him with Thunder 3, and then I would pull out my little AoE thing that allows me to cast faster, that little round thing, the little glyph thing around me. I would throw that out, do fire until I got the Fire 3 proc, which is like a free cast of Fire 3. Then I would use Convert to switch to Ice. I would use a Notion, and then I would, which allows me to cast Blizzard 4 and Fire 4. And then I would spam Blizzard 4. I think I would do 3 and sometimes 4 if I was still standing in the circle, the glyph. But sometimes I get pushed out because of stupid shit getting in my way.
That's right.
So I keep an eye on that. And then a lot of people say to do Fire 3 to switch back, but I do Convert again. And just auto switch back, and then I could do Fire 4 over and over and over and over. And I actually found out near the end, I tried it and it totally worked. Right before the fire expires, as long as I don't go crazy with it, I can like swap it back to Blizzard 4. I can like convert and go back to Blizzard 4, and I can just do that endlessly. So I could be doing Blizzard 4 and until I run out of time, and then switch it back to Fire 4 until I run out of time, and then Blizzard 4 and then Fire 4. There are a couple other things in there that I could do to make it just a little bit more damage per second instead of waiting, because there's like a moment where I have to wait for like a second and a half before I can actually convert and switch it back. And that's where I need to like work on getting something else in there to hit with before the conversion goes through, so that I'm not wasting, up to like 15, 20 seconds in a single fight.
Sure, but you can work on that in a year and a half.
Yeah, I can work on that in a year and a half, but that's the objective. Your objective is to keep everybody alive. Whatever your setup is to do that best is your rotation. Yeah, and it usually depends on the fight or like how many fuck faces the tank decides that we can take on as far as what his pull is. You know what? I was doing real well in my White Mage class until like the last 2 weeks. There was something about like the last 2 weeks I've suddenly... Dungeons I had done before just fine became very difficult all of a sudden. That is true. It was annoying.
And I don't know what happened to me as far as my White Mage performance is concerned. But I felt like I got into primo mode just in that final battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the battle before it when we were getting our asses fucking handed to us by Zenus the Penis.
Yeah.
Which is my, of course, nickname for... Actually, the characters in the game call him Zenus the Penis. I don't know if you know that or not.
That's why he's so hateful.
Yeah.
A nickname like that'll make anybody turn sour.
Here's... So, they took what they did with Heaven's Word, where they started making AoE dodging just like... the thing that makes the game difficult. So at some point, players realize that they can pretty much take on anything as long as their shit isn't interrupted all the time. And so the way that the people behind this game have brought up difficulty as you move along and as you get higher levels is they just make AoE experiences sick. So when I say AoE, area of effect things from the bosses, what'll happen if you've never played 14 before is a boss will have some sort of randomized or pre-programmed rotation of where certain attacks go out and you can see the floor glow, or some little tiny chat box will say something, or the boss will move in some sort of fashion to give you a cue that something is going to happen. You'll either have to run out, run in. At the end boss, you had to run 45-degree angle from other people, or else you were going to fucking blow them to bits. And then there's these little things on the floor will light up, and it's pretty much telling you, get the fuck out of the way before that thing goes, because you're going to get hit by it. They're very fast, and sometimes... And through this expansion, even more than Heaven's Word expansion, the AoE... things have gotten more and more and more complicated, to the point where, kind of like what Judge said last night when we were playing Stormblood, or the night before last, I guess, it was this game, it's almost like an extreme fight, in the final bosses of this game. They are crazy AoEs. And I would say the final duty, single player duty, had the craziest fucking AoEs
of any single player duty ever.
Any single player duty. The Zenus fight at the end of the final dungeon, where you had to go in on green, right? When the lightning started to turn green. Mm-hmm. Go in on green, run the fuck away on blue, and on red, don't stand next to anyone.
Yeah.
And then, if you got chained on, you had to walk in. This was something that some judge had to tell us to figure out. You had to walk so that the next AoE is basically a screw your friends over AoE. You have to walk in a certain direction so that the AoE that pulls towards you doesn't hit everybody else.
Right, yeah.
It is crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, the final fight, we've got platforms falling away. There's parts where you have to jump. It becomes almost a platforming game at a moment where I'm like, okay, I have to get to this corner that's diagonal for me, and I have to make a jump, and I totally botched one of them. Like, I was running, and I was like, shit, I gotta get over there, and I didn't press triangle in time, and I just fell off the edge, like, because I had to get to this corner of the map where I was gonna get fucking swept off. It was crazy, man. I mean, we've got all sorts of AoE shit, and then, like, even there's, like, a weird active time event in the last fight as well. Yeah, you had to
button mash.
Yeah, and, like, you could tell if someone was new and not in our chat because they didn't do it and they just got wiped instantly, and that happened a couple times. But it does pull out all the stops, and it's crazy how much AoE this game has created in this expansion, especially.
But it is at least beatable. So what I like about it is that the game, although final boss can screw you over a couple times depending on placement of like when the tail came down and what it came down on.
Yeah.
The game, because it's kind of action game oriented almost, platforming elements in there, dodging, moving around, and then you got to get your shit moving in between. Like, I got to heal or raise someone who fell off the map, but I have to do that while dodging, figuring out the timing on all that. It's still beatable. So what I kind of like about this version of the game that we have right now, as opposed to Realm Reborn, which was very simple.
Right, yeah.
Just get out of the way of the poison, and then there's occasional AoEs for the bosses in a Realm Reborn. Has gotten more complicated through Heaven's Word, and I think it's at its peak right now. It's beatable, and what I'm saying is that in FF11, it was not necessarily beatable unless you had a guy at a certain level with certain spells.
Right.
Like, that was a brute force game, FF11.
11 took it very differently. I mean, 11's brute force in almost every way because the way you level up in 11 is purely through killing enemies. Like, in this one, yeah, you get a lot of XP, but it's only if they're in a dungeon. Yeah. Only enemies in a dungeon count, and the end clear is a good chunk of XP. So this game is different in that way, and I think it almost... From the beginning, I would say that it was like a natural progression to become this way, to where, yeah, it's brutal as fuck, but it's not brutal as fuck because you can't do enough damage. It's brutal as fuck because you got to dodge and
you got to. Here's the thing:
strafe.
I think the secret to playing FF14 is getting your rotation down, knowing what your spells do, which I am not 100% great at. Obviously, wasn't for the last 2 weeks. My performance in White Mage went down after like level 67 probably because I just wanted to beat the game, didn't want to do my White Mage classes, and just didn't want to.
I could have been doing more damage.
I could have been doing more, and I'm sure the guys in the chat will agree. in the Discord channel, will probably agree. And like Emily last night screamed into the chat like, "Get Medica 2." As opposed to Medica 1, which is what I was using. And it did go better for us, but I would actually kind of blame the DPS guys for our first troubles in there. I could have been doing better, but I do like that it's all about memorization. That's the key right there. Memorization of what the boss is going to do. You got to know what the boss is going to do, how to dodge things. And even though it's still fucking difficult, you can get it done as a team as long as everybody's kind of on the same page as far as like what to do when the boss does something some certain thing.
Right.
I don't think they should nerf it. I don't think they should nerf that final boss.
Yeah, I don't either. I think the final boss...
We were able to do it just fine once we all figured it out. It's just kind of complex and long. Once you get it, though, you get it.
Yeah, and it was kind of reminiscent of 13.2's Final Zone for me because there would be parts where...
asshole...
Yeah. There would be parts where certain chunks would like...
FF13.2's final boss, I don't know if you guys know this, is just a sphincter in space.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you have to fight... It's a literal asshole that you have to fight.
Yep. When that thing opens up, you don't want to be around.
It's rough.
So it was kind of similar to that because we're on this floating platform. A bunch of dragons come down. We have to take those guys out. And it was brutal. So they were both similar in that way. It's I do prefer it though. I do prefer we now know how to get past this part, and now we can work on this next part, try to figure out what this does. Of course, we had people with us that had already beaten this, like probably a week after it came out, because they're insane as fuck. So I don't know. I really like that. I really like that mentality that they've adopted for this expansion. I think it's the way to go with 14. I think making it really complex, making it doable, but if you mess up, you just get completely wiped. I think that is the way to do it. The brute force does get old after a while, and
it does, and it's part of the mind-numbing aspect of the game. I after doing all those dungeons twice, like, it's cool to see the new dungeons. Not that cool to see the old dungeons, frankly, anymore. But going through, when you're just killing things, you're just kind of in an auto, I'm sure the tank is probably, doing things that they're like, oh, I got to do this and then this and then this. But as far as White Mage and I'm sure DPS is concerned, you're kind of going through the motions until you hit a boss in the dungeon. And so that's kind of where it peaks and where I wish that we had some sort of improvement in the game. But those bosses, when it's crazy like that and you're freaking out and you're screaming at each other in the PS4 chat or whatever, that's the good aspect of this game.
Yeah.
That I think they really need to focus on more, frankly.
Yeah, I do too. And
so yeah, brute force I don't find that interesting anymore in 14.
Yeah, honestly though, the biggest... Because
otherwise there's no challenge whatsoever.
Yeah, there's not. And that's why I hated doing those old dungeons. Like, I like doing them for the first time, but when I get an older dungeon in my dailies for leveling, I hate it, dude. I fucking hate it because it's so boring. Like,
but you did have to have that experience though, frankly.
Yeah, that's true.
to move up to this point in the game. Those people who are chugging potions to get up to Stormblood automatically,
Yeah, you have no idea what.
they will be the worst players in the game.
Yeah, probably.
They'll be terrible.
Probably, but it's. I think it's going in a good direction, and I do think this expansion was the way to go.
We did have, I think we had. Sorry if I'm wrong about this. I'm sorry. I think we had 6 dungeons in the main story quests, and then we had 1 extra dungeon within the first up to level 69, and then there's 2 extra dungeons which we didn't do that open up at level 70.
Yeah, we didn't do them because we're already level capped. So
it was nice though. Someone did tell us, you get a dungeon every odd level.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the case before. I haven't gone back and
I don't know either, but that was nice to know when that shit was going to happen. There's also they still kind of focused a lot on single player duties, and I'm asking Square as a future part owner of Square Enix, please stop focusing on the single player duties. They are the most tedious. There's gameplay aspects in there. They're kind of interesting. You learn your class really well because you're kind of on your own. But otherwise, the good part of the game is the dungeons, is the thing that you are doing with other people to get the game done. What the fuck are you doing wasting all your time on these single player duties?
Yeah, there are
I see a single player duty as I roll my eyes. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. God damn it. I get to play, but I don't get to play with other people, which is the fun part. Like, really?
It is, and there are 9 of them throughout Stormblood. I mean, we got to realize that Stormblood is a large expansion with 122 quests in it. But 9 of those were single-player dungeons, and honestly, I would much rather have just like a tiny 4-player trial instead. Like, make it like a dungeon setup where you have 2 DPS, a tank, a healer, and it's like, okay, all of you are together and you're doing this tiny dungeon that's just really a trial for 4 people instead of 8.
Right.
Because, the solo duties can be pretty frustrating, and like you don't have anybody else there to help you figure it out, and like if your chat's adjusted so that you don't see every fucking thing in game, you don't see some of the stuff they're saying, so you can't tell like what exactly needs to be done, so you don't have like a backup person there being like, oh we gotta watch out for this, or, like, come stand over here now when this happens. It's just trial and error a lot of times.
Like, all the solo duties could have been multiplayer.
Yeah, they could be. Yeah,
like the way they were set up. Like,
you have a healer.
You could have just made this 4 times as hard, like as far as like the programming, damage amounts, whatever is concerned, but have 4 people in it.
Yeah, and it would have been great.
It would have been great.
I would have loved it, but they can't get away from those solo duties. I don't.
They need to stop. They're fine. They are fine for what they are. They play well, but that's not the good aspect of this game. Exploit the good. Take away the mediocre. I love dungeons. I love trials. They can be really great, especially when they're really difficult, but you have to do them anyway. But those single player duties, man, single player duties, cutscenes that are too long, they're still doing it in Stormblood.
Yeah, they are.
So I do want to, before we move on to design and music, I do want to talk about just a couple little things in the newer dungeons. Just really one thing in one of the dungeons that I thought was amazing. So they started in Heavensward. They started bringing the map out a little bit more, where it was more interactive and crazy, and that your character would move around, and like now we have it. So the first dungeon we had was when the ship slams into the area, the port or whatever. And when the ship does that, your characters are actually moving there, and there's just a visual awesomeness, almost Last Guardian-esque, where the map just becomes like a character in itself. And it must just be really complicated programming in order to do that in an MMO, and I'm sure this is why it's taken them so long to get to this point, to be able to figure out how all this shit is actually going to work, in actual like physical programming sense. But when the ship goes in there and your characters are moving around and everything's going crazy, or with the whale fight in the last expansion where things moved around a lot. Now we have platforms going away, and we have, we got to drop down 120 feet to get to the next level, and your character spins around. I thought this was a really cool way to liven up the dungeons. I really respect what they did with Stormblood in that respect. I thought it was a great step up.
Yeah, I mean, even with Heaven's Word's like brutal AoE implementation, which was pretty intense, and it did liven up the dungeons at the very least, because you weren't just standing there doing your little measly rotation all day long. You had to move your ass or you're going to die, right?
Right.
With this one, you got to move your ass or you're going to die. Oh, and we've got dudes coming from the sides, and you got to watch out for them hitting you while you're watching out for the main boss's AoEs, and then there's the other guy's AoEs, and like it's crazy the amount of interactivity that these dungeons have, and there is a lot more going on. Like the ship one, that was the first dungeon in the expansion, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like we're slamming into the dock, like water spraying everywhere, we're running off, we're attacking, like it's just shit's happening in the background while we're doing these dungeons. And I don't know, I think it is, I certainly agree that it is a step up, and I had a lot of fun with the dungeons. I mean, every time I went into a dungeon roulette, I was really hoping that I would get
hoping it'd be at least a level 50.
A Stormblood dungeon, and most of the time we got Stormblood ones, because a lot of people
because a lot of people are trying to get through them.
Yeah, and so we're basically jumping on into a party with other people to run through main story quest.
Yep.
So that was, I think it's great, and I think they did a really solid job with the dungeons and with the amount of time and like love each dungeon has, because none of them feel the same. Like a lot of those level 50 ones that we did. Looking at the name, I couldn't tell you which one it was. I couldn't tell you the mechanic until maybe I got in, but I've only run it once in my life, so I might not even know the mechanics anymore. Like,
right.
But with these Stormblood ones, like I've got them down. Like I know what we need to do, where, and when, because they're fun, because they're interactive, because they're memorable, and the rest of the game is not that memorable. There are a couple here and there that I think are a lot of fun, like the Hawk Manor is obviously a really cool design, but this is like a whole new world. Like it's almost a completely different game as far as like the approach they took.
So you just brought up design. Let's talk about design and music. Usually, like, because it's an expansion, it's hard to make that section really long.
Yeah.
So let's get into those. Okay, so with design, we just went off about the dungeons and how like more interactive and crazy they are. They added that aspect to it. I think it's great. I think Xenos is a little weird looking.
Yeah.
But obviously they had to, I believe the reason they got rid of the PS3 support was so that they could do more complex stuff. Right?
Probably, yeah. I think it was holding them back, and
So
they didn't want
is.
to like out one of their audience bases, but then they ended up having to. They're like, we can't.
It's like just up
We can't
to a
sustain
PS4.
this, yeah.
Come on, it's been a few years. You can
Yeah.
do it. PS4 really is, guys. Look, I understand. There was a point when I was like, with that PS3, I was like, game consoles cannot get better than this. It's beautiful, and I know you always think that with the newest, most sophisticated, beautiful piece of machinery. PS3 is a powerful piece of machinery for what it was, but now the PS4 is just so much better.
Yeah, it is.
Which I couldn't have even imagined when I was on the PS3 that you could do something better than the PS3.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but if you're
But move on.
yeah, please
what I'm
do.
saying.
It's the technology is so much better. You press that middle button and it actually goes somewhere. It doesn't just going to be a loading bar.
Party chat is so much better.
Party chat exists. Yeah, there's no real party chat in PS3.
Well, there is.
Only if you're in a game together.
Yeah, and you're getting.
But if you're not, there's no party. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
It's archaic. It's like I'm like, how did we not have just
What an
a
old
regular
piece of shit.
Well, like Xbox 360 had parties that you could join without being in the game together. So
Oh, there's another Xbox win.
yeah, definitely.
Those are
Xbox
rare,
win.
but they happen.
Yeah, so it's totally worth the upgrade. But yeah, I think that was part of the reason why they were being held back.
It
Was the
must have
PS3.
been. I bet they couldn't have done that ship slamming in over online party, crazy other things going on. I bet the PS3 couldn't handle it. I had heard, although I never played the PS3 version, that the PS3 version was really laggy all the time and just couldn't handle the game.
Yeah, which is sad because the game isn't like that great looking.
Not. It's somewhere. It's not even that great for a PS3 game as far as graphics are concerned, but it is an MMO, so it's taken up a lot more than just.
Yeah, it's not
the processing power is not all about the graphics. It's about being able to handle graphics and a bunch of information online.
Right. Yeah.
I'm obviously no programming expert, but I'm just assuming these things.
Yeah, 13 looks great, but 13 is also a hallway, and most of it you don't interact with.
Yeah.
This game, you interact with a ton of shit, and it's not hallway at all. So it's a different approach. But yeah, I think it is somewhere in between 12 and 13, leaning on 13. Probably really close to what 13 has.
Now, the cutscene designs kind of, when I say designs, animation, the cutscenes have kind of stayed about standard. There were a couple parts in Stormblood where I'm like, they really could have done a little bit more on the animation on that character when he just like did some robotic movement in a cutscene. And I'm like, we haven't seen that since PS1, and it really needs to stay in the PS1 era with the robotic kind of head turn or something like that.
Yeah.
And I felt like they could have done a little bit better of a job in some of those aspects, but once again, it's like, you're not playing this for the story. You're playing this for the fucking dungeons.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and those were great and visually very cool, and at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and the areas looked great too. I mean, we didn't get as many areas.
Oh yeah, the areas. We only got like what, 5 new areas?
I think so, something 5 or 6. I think it's probably 6.
Yeah.
But we barely touched the last one too. We were only there for a couple quests.
But they actually one-upped Heavensward in the, maybe not in the design, because I love the look of Heavensward, the snowy European Gothic kind of things that we saw in Heavensward. I love that look. And I think 14 should just stick with that look. They went for an Asian motif. So a lot of Chinese, East Asian sort of stuff, Chinese, Korean, ancient Japanese.
Yeah.
Color palettes and building architecture and clothing. It's all in there. And it's cool and it's interesting. And it's just a matter of taste, which one you kind of prefer. If you prefer the Heavensward sort of, which I do. I'm a heavy metal guy all through and through. It's just gothic stuff is just really cool looking to me. But what they did with the Asian motif, it works. A lot of sea aspects, kind of like what we had in FF10, although not in the same way, because you're dealing with diving and a lot of oceany sort of motifs.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying about the Heavensward, they made the areas just gigantic, Schweiss. Just huge.
Yeah, they put every other area to shame in this
Getting
game.
from one place to another, it takes forever.
That's why I got the flying, man, because it's nuts. It's just so big. Like the Ruby Sea, the first area, one of the first areas we get into, is massive. It's bigger than anything I've seen in the game.
I don't even think I still haven't opened up like that entire. Like I haven't. When you have your mini map, and you get experience for hitting parts of the map that you haven't hit before.
Yeah. Like
there'll be areas, kind of fog of war. It'll be fogged up in the mini map, and of course, when you explore it, it gets opened up. Now, in A Realm Reborn, the areas were kind of small. Heavensward, there were a couple areas that were huge, but the other areas were kind of small.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this one, only like 6 new areas, maybe. Gigantic. Even bigger than the biggest one in Heavensward.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like it, though. I mean, it adds for... I mean, it almost forced my hand with the getting the ether currents and finally learning to fly. And I kind of don't want to go back, honestly, because the being able to fly is just really, really fucking cool in the game, and it just takes way less time to get anywhere. Now, of course, we also have ether attunement to the crystal, so we can teleport almost anywhere we need to. But there are some of those chunks of land that are not near anything else, and it's nice to just jump on that Midgard Sormer and just fly away.
Yeah.
But that's why I did it, because I was like, dude, this is taking way too long to just get from point A to point B. Is like 5 minutes. It's ridiculous.
It's nice, and I have argued with you for the last 5 episodes about you getting those ether currents. It is nice to be able to fly, but when you're doing main story quest focus stuff, you're in an area, and once you're done with that area, you're mostly done with it.
Mostly, yeah.
You might return to next to the save crystal to talk to someone, but that's about it. Not a save crystal, aetherite teleport crystal. Sorry, they don't have save crystals in this one.
No.
So I don't really see like any reason. Like if the game was just one giant area, then I could see a reason to go get all those aetherites to get from place to place, but it's not like that. So I find the aetherite searching a giant waste of time. But we got it done at the same time anyway, so
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of the game is to waste time though. It's an MMO.
yeah.
I'm just playing it like it should be played. I got shit for doing a lot of so in Nier Automata, there's a character who, instead of doing a lot of combat, you can just hack into enemies, and it's like this weird little Asteroids-esque minigame.
Okay.
We have to destroy their defenses.
Sure. And
Kaleb was telling me that made me weak by using just the hacking all the time, and I was like, I'm just playing to the character, man. So that's the same thing here. I'm just playing the game. I'm just wasting my time.
Wow.
My life is just wisping away. I'm just fucking... I'm doing it. That's what you're supposed to do.
God.
That's par for the course with the MMO. I'm supposed to do it all, man.
All right, so I don't really have anything else to say about design.
Yeah, I liked it,
was
but I
fine.
agree. I think Heaven's Word was more epic to me. I like the snowy mountain regions. I like the look of the dragoons. Also, Estinian came back at the end of this. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
And he totally played a part in destroying a giant cannon that was used to fucking wipe you out, or an attempt to wipe you out. So he's badass, and he's back. But I liked his zones more. I think Heaven's Word beats it out in design at the very least.
Yeah.
If not anything else, quite yet. So yeah.
So music. Still working with Soken.
Of course.
Now, our initial taste of this music was that Nobuo Uematsu, Susan Calloway thing. I am not a giant fan of that song. I thought the kind of last section was pretty good. The bridge of the song was pretty good. But the rest of it, I didn't think was nearly as good as our last two Susan Calloway pieces that we've gotten for Heaven's Word and for A Realm Reborn. Answers especially is a really great song. So I was kind of disappointed a little bit in the Stormblood theme song.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either. I liked it more the last time I heard it, but that was also during end credits, so I was satisfied with myself.
Maybe that's it.
But I'm like, yeah, it's kind of lukewarm. That's just how I feel towards it, which is weird because the last two have been like really good.
Yeah.
Like really fucking good. And then the 11's
I feel like it was a bit of a pot boiler for Nobuo.
Yeah, and then we look at 11's Distant Worlds, which is like almost the best song and one of the top songs in the series. Like it's ridiculously good, and it's an 11. I'm like, what the hell? They can't do a theme song for 10, 12, any other game, but the MMOs, they really put their time into that theme
Nobuo was
song.
like, oh, I'll actually be able to write a pop song here that's decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how... whoa. Did my voice go away for a second?
I don't think so.
I think it did. I think I cut out. All right.
You sound fine.
Sorry.
You're good. Breaking those
See,
fucking
can you hear
chords
that?
all day.
Can you hear that? It's
No.
kind of popping in and out.
I think it might be your headphones.
Maybe it is my headphones. Okay.
Because you fucking jammed the thing to that tiny hole.
Don't remind me. I got another broken pair of headphones, so I'm not going all laser voice on you right now.
No, it sounds fine.
Okay, I'm going to take your word for it then. And it's definitely my headphones. Sorry, guys.
In the track, it's just like... Yeah, you sound fine.
It's like...
No, everything's perfect.
That's what it sounds like to me. All right, I'm taking my headphones off. Oh, no, I need to keep them on because of this part. Okay. Now, I will have to say that my kind of lukewarm attitude actually has continued through Stormblood. Almost entirely. There were some final boss themes in the dungeons. The boss theme was really good.
Yeah, of
in
course.
the dungeons. It was really epic and really good. And of course, I kind of love epic orchestrated scores. Like that's my go-to after Metallica and Megadeth. If I need to zone out for a little bit, I'll put on the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. It's really like Wagner-esque, epic, awesome soundtrack. And when other things have stuff like that, like John Williams does a lot of those kind of scores.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings soundtrack.
Lord of the Rings, like Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings soundtrack now. And there's a billion examples of great kind of soundtracks like that. Because it's used a lot in movies, and when I write with movie soundtracks in the background. It's just, that's what I like to do. And I like that kind of thing. And there was some of that in there. And Soken is really good at those pieces. Like Nobuo, he is really good at those pieces. Really melodic, really great, epic sounding thing. So the dungeon final boss music, or the boss music in the dungeons, really great. Love it. Can't say I love the... I know he must have changed his musical style to fit the Asian motif that they were going for. Mm-hmm. I just don't love the area soundtracks in this game very much. They're not terrible, except for one soundtrack we'll get to in a second. They're not terrible to me. They're just kind of lukewarm and not as great to me. Now, you might feel different, guys. If you just have a slightly different taste in music, that's fine. It's not like an FF8 horrible I Want to Puke soundtrack, and I don't understand why you would like this at all. But to me, I thought it was a step down.
Yeah, I would agree with the step down. I think the Ruby Sea area was really cool. The little soundtrack for that zone was awesome. Like you said, the epicness at the end of the game, that was great. Like some of the final themes, those were awesome. I mean, when Xenos killed himself at the very end, he like slits his own throat and dies. Like everything's just big, and it's a large feeling part of the game, and the music definitely lends itself to that. But overall, yeah, I think the zones, other than that first one, they were just kind of par. Like it was just fine. I never had one that was like stuck in my head or anything like that, and that's kind of weird because there were some in 14 that I would think about and I would listen to during the day, like some of the soundtracks, mostly the theme songs,
right,
and stuff surrounding that. But this one, yeah, I don't know. This one's not so much. And then also we noticed so if you remember a little while ago, probably like a year and a half, a couple of years ago, something like that, Stormblood or Final Fantasy XIV sort of came under fire for some
it was a mild
copyright infringement on a Power Man 5000 song, which was, what was it? Wasn't it the Leviathan theme?
It wasn't the Leviathan theme. It was one of the Primal fights, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if it was the Leviathan theme, but it was a Power Man 5000 song, and it was
definitely there.
Really, really close to the same thing. So I'm like, okay, Soken, sometimes he hears a song, whether or not he remembers it, and he'll well, this is something musicians do all the time anyway. I don't know how many of them are like scheming, going, I'm going to rip off this song, which I argued for before. Maybe I'll argue for again. Basically, Power Man 5000, what is it really? It's going on here? Da, da, da. This is what it's like when worlds collide. Are you ready to go? Da, 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 da. That kind of soundscape and melody was directly into a boss fight music in A Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
And all that happened, I believe, because I did like a small look up before we started recording that episode. All that happened, I think, is just the Power Man 5000 guy just said, oh, they totally ripped us off.
Yeah. Nothing.
There was no lawsuit or anything like that, because that would be dickish. But yeah, that went under fire. I will say once again that as a person who wanted to be a rock star desperately up till I was about 19... and was in bands and played live and recorded music, rock music. And have written dozens of songs. I will say that sometimes you have a melody in your head, you're putting it on guitar, background music, you're writing lyrics for it, and sometimes later down the road you realize where you took it from. And it's just a subconscious thing. Most people, I believe this is true, most musicians just kind of feel a melody out and then put it on paper or put it onto their instrument. And it's just a feel sort of a process. It's not mathematical when they're writing a song. Most. I'm not saying all, because I don't know what other people's process, except for mine and a few other people I knew. So I don't believe that Soken ripped off Power Man 5000 directly on purpose. Kind of like I don't believe that Led Zeppelin ripped off that one guitar player on purpose during Stairway to Heaven, which is a song that is very similar to another guitar piece from another band. I kind of doubt that there is that most musicians literally rip off people on purpose. Because if that were true, I had a riff that was stolen in a Britney Spears song 5 years later. That was a song that I had recorded and put on MySpace.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, if I were a douchebag, I would assume that one of the people behind Britney Spears music took my guitar riff and made it a pop, like a synthesizer riff.
Yeah.
I could assume that. So the song is Beautiful by Britney Spears, by the way. Took my riff, that dun, 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 that's mine. I could say that. I don't actually believe it. But this is so fucking close, Schweiss. The Power Man 5000 is really close, and Soken has done it again. I don't believe he's stealing these on purpose, but what you gotta show us this.
Yeah, I don't think it's malicious, but while we were playing the Doma Castle dungeon, Joe noticed that it kind of sounded like Mario. So I'm gonna play a few seconds of the Doma Castle theme here. We'll listen to that. So we've definitely got the mushroom theme going on.
It's the star theme.
Star theme, yeah.
Even up to,
which is Final Fantasy, but it's also very Mario at the same time.
Yeah, so, okay, you can stop it. So that was that part. And whenever we played that dungeon, we played it a few times, I was like, fuck, this is the Mario Star theme over and over again. And so I looked up the original Mario Star theme and like, dun, 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 just right. Now, there was I looked into another video on YouTube this morning, and there was a Star theme medley for Super Mario Bros.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing that, and I skipped to one. Incidentally, it was a Super Mario 64 one, and all I thought that the song had taken was the dun 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 dun, and then when the strings came in, that it was like it became a different thing with that kind of backup track. So I was like, oh, okay, he changed it a little bit, even though he's totally ripping off this song. Now, play the Super Mario 64 one.
All right, so pretty similar right now.
Right. And then we got, when the strings come in, it's not the same melody, but it is a very similar, feel to it. And the fact that it was starting with the dun 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 dun, and then the strings start coming in, just like we saw with the Doma theme. Yeah, you can definitely stop.
Yeah, I think I like you said before, though. I don't think it's ever.
It's funny because the musician will plink something out on the guitar or will sing a melody. They won't know what it's from until way later.
Yeah, it's never malicious.
They'll be like, wow, this
think.
feels right. This feels great.
I don't think it's ever been malicious, ever. So it's not a big deal to me, but it is something that is noticeable. And I don't know, you got to be careful because sometimes people are not okay with it. They don't just say, oh, you ripped me off. They try to take you down for it. And it's kind of ridiculous, but
I mean, unless he derectly stole their riff like Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, that's true.
That is definitely. There's a difference between the Vanilla Ice ripoff of Queen.
It's one note off.
Than that, or the Power Man 5000.
Yeah. It is different. So, I don't know. I doubt anything will come of it, but we definitely noticed the similarities. And it was also, I don't really think the song fit the dungeon at all. I thought it was an awful choice for music. We have this huge fight going on. They're we're storming the castle that we flooded. We're taking back our, Lord Hyen's home, essentially his castle, getting everything secured. And it's this weird, like, upbeat piece of music that totally sounds like Mario.
It's like, wow, I got the star effect. I can take on this whole dungeon right now.
Yeah, single-handedly, just single spells, and they're all dead. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was a good choice as a whole. So I'm not very positive towards this piece of music. I think it's very generic, and it sounds like Mario. Like it's generic in a way that I've heard it before.
Yeah, it doesn't match the setting at all.
And it doesn't match the setting at all. And that's what I fucking hate that about Final Fantasy and their theme songs most of the time. They have this shitty pop song at the end of most of their games, and it just doesn't fit. Like, it doesn't fit. It didn't fit in 13. It didn't fit in 12. It doesn't fit in 10.
That
necessarily.
Spoonie experiment review of FF8 where Laguna is going through the town, and he's got to get rid of the caterpillars that are, that they're harassing the town.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's this really ding, 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 and like really elevator-y, disgustingly terrible music. Very calming, very peaceful town music. That is going through in between the battle themes, just like a 180 as soon as you get into the battle. And Spoonie Experiment's thing was he had the Phantom Menace scene where they're going after Darth Maul, the only good scene in that movie. They're going after Darth Maul, and then he gets caught by the like laser beam things that are stopping him from fighting Darth Maul. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And Spoonie put the epic John Williams music, and then every time he got stopped and is just waiting for Darth Maul, he started playing the FF8 bling, ding, ding. And it was really funny, and that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, just like it's just wrong. It's not meant to be there. In the chat, Lionheart says she didn't like Stand By, or he or she didn't like Stand By Me in 15.
I was okay with it. I thought it was a good cover.
Yeah, I think it's a good cover. I think the original one is
and I think
still a better song.
Thematically, it fit with the game.
Yeah, the song does.
So that is something that sometimes these fucking terrible FF songs, you will have a theme that is like a love theme was the game centered around that, and I just didn't know. Like,
yeah, no, most of the time, no. But so yeah, I know what you mean. As long as it's thematically accurate,
and I think that's I mean, you may not like it. I guess that's your taste. I like "Stand By Me" the song, and I thought the person who did that cover had a really beautiful voice, and I thought it was a really decent cover.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
Once again, I always side with the original Schweiss unless it's the Hallelujah song. I always stand by the original because usually the person who originally wrote it, there's something more soulful about it coming from them. The performance is there. Because it's an original, I just kind of default with it most of the time. I'm not a person who likes covers in a general sense. But I actually, like, you may not like Stand By Me. Some people think it doesn't fit. I think it's great. But whatever.
Yeah.
That's just for that piece. Most of the time I fucking hate. I would rather have Stand By Me than an original that is a J-pop terrible thing.
That's true. Yeah, I would too.
That makes me want to puke. So, yeah. You get your just different tastes involved here. So anyway, I'm kind of lukewarm on the music, but do you want to talk about the legacy and the overall and the rankings?
Sure. Let's dive in.
All right. So the game has only been released for a month and a half now, or 2 months maybe?
Yeah, around there. 2 months. I think it was June 20th.
So we're right on 2 months, basically. That's good. So I can't really say that we have a legacy for this Stormblood yet, although Shinru did give us a piece of news saying that subscriptions were at their peak for FF14, which is very good for my company that I will soon own. So, that's at least something with 14. This seems to be the expansion that's getting more people into the game than even Heavensward did. Do you think that's true? Is it the potions to bring you up to level, maybe?
I think that's probably part of it. I think that just any expansion that comes out, anything that looks interesting will gather more people to play. I mean, obviously we're getting all of the people who completed everything in Heavensward and Dragonsong War. They're coming back for the big expansion. I mean, this is not just the small patch release of a couple quests here and there, a few quality of life fixes here and there, bug fixes. This isn't that. This is a full-fledged 100+ quests worth of gameplay, and it's going to bring people back to the game. And I think it's natural that with anything new, like if you're kind of on the fence, like, I don't know if I'm going to play Stormblood, I don't know if I want to jump in, or if I want to play 14 because it's so long, but then you see Stormblood and you're like, oh wow, that looks really fun. I think I'm going to just jump in, buy the potion, pull myself up to level and play the new content to be current with the game. I think you're going to have that. You're going to have newbies jumping on from the beginning. You're going to have people returning back to the game, renewing their subscriptions, all of that stuff. So I think it's kind of a mix between the two. I think it's probably more people coming back to the game than starting it anew from an expansion. But I mean, maybe that expansion is interesting enough to pull you in. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
What were you shitting? It looks like you forgot to say something.
I remembered something that I was going to talk about.
Oh, I know what you're going to fucking...
In this game. Get ready for the rant of the year. Here's just a distraction here. I should have talked about this in gameplay.
Probably.
Stormblood is new. So that's where we're going to anchor it. Stormblood is new. So not all bugs have been dealt with. I was playing one of the single-player duties the other day, and the single-player duty was one where you had to run through, and there was this beast in chains, and you had to break the chains and then kill the beast, and then move on through the story of the game.
Okay.
Now, as a white mage, when I'm playing by myself and I have to do the little quests where, you get to a destination, bad guys pop up, and you just kind of got to kill them and you're by yourself. A very useful spell for that stuff is a spell called Fluid Aura, which, for the white mage, super useful when you're playing by yourself, and probably not that useful in dungeons and shouldn't be in my main bar as far as moves is concerned. I understand that, but whatever. It's in my main bar. It pushes back bad guys a few feet, makes them stagger for a couple seconds before they come at you again. So you can basically take on a few more people and you're not getting slaughtered while you're both trying to heal yourself because you're squishy as hell when you're a white mage.
Right.
And you're trying to kill the guys very slowly because you don't do enough damage to just take them out like your class does without having to heal yourself. Now, I got to this boss part in this single player duty with the beast in chains in front of the doorway, and I just in my regular thing. Sometimes Fluid Aura does a good amount of damage, even more damage than my Stone 2 does or Stone 4 or whatever I'm using. And so I tried to use it on this bad guy in the middle of the fight, and most bosses. Fluid Aura is a nothing thing. It doesn't work. It just misses and whatever. You just wasted your time, Joe. But it's an instant cast and it doesn't stop any other cast. So sometimes I just do it out of habit just to do it. And what happened was the boss took the Fluid Aura hit and went forward 10 feet into the middle of the map. He didn't get knocked out of the map itself. He got knocked into an area that I had walked through just fine a minute before I started fighting this guy. So he shoots forward. And then Lise, the character Lise, in the chat goes, "You've ruined everything." And then, boom, duty failed. I was livid twice. I had not gotten killed. None of the supporting characters were killed, which is sometimes something that can ruin a duty. Lise told me I ruined everything by attacking this guy with fluid aura, and then the game told me I had failed the duty. So, I racked my brain trying to figure out what the fuck happened with that part of the game. And what I have concluded is there is a glitch. They did not expect or program the fact that fluid aura might be used on that boss in that duty in this game. So, in order to deal with people who are hacking into the game and cheating, maybe people auto-leveling or whatever, they have some sort of fail-safe where if something that happens shouldn't happen, Lise goes, "You've ruined everything," and the duty is automatically failed because you're a cheating fuck. That's what I assume is the programming sequence that happened that was like X equals, player cheating the fuck out of the game. If X, then Lise talk, expression, whatever. You've ruined everything. Fuck you. Duty failed.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong, Schweiss. And the game, because it's a half-programmed piece of fuck in a single-player duty, which, of course, my favorite thing in the world. Plus, not just a single-player duty, a long single-player duty that ends with that boss. Just told me, hey, how dare you use a basic white mage spell on this guy? And just screw me. I was so freaking mad twice.
Yeah, it was funny because you were actually ahead of me for a little bit, and then I started that one like 10 minutes after you, and I just went through it with no problem.
Yeah, and he beat me. So I had to do that one 3 times. Sorry, I just hit my mic. I had to do that one 3 times. The first time, no problems whatsoever, and the game told me I was an asshole and then kicked me out. How dare you use fluid aura? Like, fuck you. I can use fluid aura if I want. If it's not effective, I'll move on to the next spell. It's like the Vanish Doom trick, only this time Terra just goes, hey, screw you, and erases your save data in case you use it, you know?
Yeah.
It was so bad, Schweiss. I'm still mad about it. Like, it cost me that, so I did it 3 times. It cost me the first time. The second time, I just died because I was in a hurry and I had pulled a bunch of guys behind me because I was trying to skip them, and then they raped me. It was terrible. And then the third time I had to slowly make my way through it, and then like, don't touch fluid aura out as on a spell on this guy. Whatever you do, do not hit him with fluid aura. So that's my warning for you guys. Just don't use fluid aura on any of the single player duties. I'm sure they're all Lisa's gonna say you've ruined everything,
even if she's not there. You've ruined everything. What?
And then on that other one, there was another freaking glitch I ran into in this game. I was fighting. It was Xenos, right, where the AOE's were going nuts.
Yeah, Xenos. Yeah.
Okay, there was a part where Alphanod was like, stand by the carbuncle so he can save you.
Oh, I think that was the wolf fight, actually.
Oh, the wolf fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stand by this guy so he can save you. But I wasn't taking enough damage to die. And Alphanod was saying that, and I was doing damage just fine, and I was living. And because I didn't walk into the circle with carbuncle, I just failed the duty at full health.
Yeah, I think I know which one. That wasn't the same one I was thinking of.
I failed the duty at full health, and all that was different was I had to stand into that circle. And I was doing enough damage to kill the guy slowly over time. I wasn't getting killed. I realized it was easier the next time I tried it and I stood in the circle. It was an easier fight. But the game requires you. Absolutely requires you to stand in that circle and get healed, even though I am a healer and can heal myself.
Yeah, it's stupid. There was another moment where near the end...
And then I failed the duty randomly and I freaked out over that too.
One of the other ones near the very end, that wolf fight, when that guy has like crazy nutso AoEs. You said something about, okay, we got to stand next to the carbuncle, and I go stand next to him, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then one of the AOE's is coming up, and I'm like, oh, I just need to stand here though. I'm supposed to stand here, and I stood there, and I just got fucking obliterated. It was like ridiculous. I got hit by like 3 AOE's at the same time, and I'm like, okay, I'm not standing there. I'm gonna only go there when I'm dying, even though the game's like, oh, come here, come hither, come die next to me. It is brutal sometimes, but. And that's what I was complaining about earlier. Like, single-player duties would be so much better as just mini trials. Like, you could just figure it out together instead of having all these NPCs. You could have a couple NPCs
instead of having all these
and then a little mini
glitches
party.
that apparently you ruin everything if you use a certain spell. God, dude, I cannot believe that no one in the testing phase of this game used Fluid Aura on that boss.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That
Okay,
is pretty good.
Overall, how do you feel about Stormblood?
I think it's a pretty good expansion. I think it's a step in the right direction. I like the intricacies.
At least Krinital and Judge said it was an improvement. So
I agree too. I think this is.
They think it's good.
Personally, I think this is the best expansion that this game has ever released. I don't know if it comes close to or beats out some of the 11 content that we had. With the Wings of the Goddess, I thought it was great, and then also what the hell was the first one?
The Chains of Promathia.
Chains of Promathia. Those were both really excellent
Rise
expansions.
Of the Xylard, I guess was actually
the first one. Promathia is the one I'm looking at. It's I don't know if it comes to that kind of a peak, or even the Vana'diel one at the end. I don't know if it's that great, but as far as 14 is concerned, I personally think this is the best expansion that they've released so far. And I know we are supposed to keep our rankings close to our chests until that time, but when we're talking about legacy, it's kind of tough to not. I think this is the best expansion that the game has released.
I agree with you, actually. Although I thought the one section in Dragonsong War was a stronger story section than.
Yeah, I do.
But it's only the one section of story.
And then the second part is fucking ass. So
second part isn't that good, and then the third part is kind of in between the two. I get it, but I thought Stormblood as a whole was better. The antagonists were really strong.
Oh yeah, way strong. Excellent. Not that Nidhogg wasn't, but
and there were some really good scenes in there that were really memorable. So since I guess we're just going straight into rankings, I will also put mine on top. So what are our rankings for? We're not going to return to 14 in a while. So what are our rankings?
We need to have some change of heart because we're both identical.
God.
Stormblood, Dragonsong War, A Realm Reborn 2.55, Heavensward, A Realm Reborn, and the boring as fuck 1.0 cutscenes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. There are a couple in there, like Heavensward is really close to...
Gameplay-wise, it's also matched up, too.
Yeah.
In my mind. So sometimes we have troubles distinguishing story from gameplay, but gameplay has consistently gotten better throughout the expansions, and I think each expansion has gotten better as it went along.
Yeah, I agree.
Well.
Yeah, except for the very tail end of Dragonsong, yeah. Roxo, there is still about a year and a half of Stormblood's story. Those will be the patches that we'll do before the release of the next expansion.
We'll
so once
separately.
that chunk is done, whatever they end up calling it, whether they go the 2-point blah blah blahs and they have little chunks that are each identical, or they go Dragonsong War, boom, here's the big chunk of quests. We'll review that and then the next expansion right afterwards.
Right.
So that won't be for a while, of course. That'll be about 2 years from now. But
right.
It's kind of crazy. Long time.
We had a couple of depressing weeks here on the show, and I like to blame things. I like to externalize everything and internalize nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and externally blame the fact that this game has been a suck on my life. I've had to stay in one position every day, or half of the days of the week, just playing this game for 4 hours and hardly ever running into a dungeon. When I do, it's great.
Yeah, of course.
So this game is not a game that you are supposed to sprint through. We're playing it wrong, but we're playing it so that we can beat it.
Well,
and play the whole series.
I would say we're playing it wrong, kind of. I think sprinting through the story is right, but you're not supposed to quit after that. You're supposed to go in and grind on the Omega trials,
do the actual
or the
game.
Yeah, you're
stuff,
supposed to go in and do those big trials and get god tier equipment so that you're
play with other people more.
Right, yeah, so that you're viable, you're a good player. But we're just like trash because we didn't even finish our job quests.
Nope.
Like, didn't finish them. I didn't have time. We had to beat the game, and we could beat it without the job quests. So, fuck it, we're out of here. We're moving on, man. We got all these other Final Fantasies to run through, and all those dungeons that we missed, the Bahamut stuff. All of that we can still do next time. Like, this isn't like a final thing. I think the big problem with our playthrough now was just the sheer amount of content that we went through. 14, I think if we would have done Heavensward, if we would have had the foresight to do Heavensward when it came out, we would still be down to finish all the extra trials and stuff. I have almost no doubt in my mind, because we would be 3 weeks back.
Right.
And we'd be like, well, yeah, we just barely got into 14. We can't leave 14. We have all this extra stuff that we're going to do before we quit 14 finally for the end. All these extra trials, these, the Bahamut, the fucking Alexander raids, all of those we're going to do. We're going to have it done. But it's just too much right now. It's just too much to keep going. And like, I know I just paid for my subscription, but I don't care.
I don't care either.
Like, I have fucking put enough time in, even with not playing a second of this $15 or $13, $14, whatever the hell the subscription amount is, worth of money as is, so it's all paid in full. Like, I got my money's worth before I was even charged. My time, it's good. We're fine. But I think it's because we did too much, and I think next time when we do the stuff leading up to the release of the next expansion, I think I'm going to be a lot more refreshed to do the content that we haven't done yet, like those 2 level 70 dungeons. I don't know if I want to do those when I'm not getting experience for it.
Nope, I definitely don't want to do those when I'm not getting XP.
And that's why I was like, wow, I'm kind of glad we waited to do these level 50 dungeons until after we were past the level 50 cap, because now we're actually getting experience. We're getting a reward for it. I know they have the in-game achievements, and I am all about those, but that's a secondary thing.
They should like prorate the XP so you can see that your XP is going up. There's like, you'll be like 2 million over your cap, but you'll stay on the same level, and then when the expansion is released, you actually level up to that amount. That would be nice, but of course they're never going to do that.
Yeah. I think it should be that way too.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, and I would have a will to go through it. Not that I don't. I mean, we obviously love the dungeons, but now we're done. Like, it's over. And now it's like we can move on.
We can move on to A King's Tale.
A King's Tale, yep. The 3-hour wonder.
And then possibly, depending on its release structure, which, once again, we had the bipolar news on, possibly we'll move on to the fishing fuckers of the deep.
Yeah, if that doesn't come out before we move on to tactics, then we're not going to do it until after.
We're not going to do it.
What would that be then? It would be like season 2.5.
Well, we did FF15 in season 2.
That's true. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
we just every time the game that should be on the previous rotation comes in, like a sequel to a main series game,
we jump into it.
We'll have to jump into that after we're done with whatever game we're playing.
Right.
So that's fine.
I think we should set it up that way, though. We should do 15 was season 1.5. And then now, if when this fucking Monsters of the Deep, this bullshit single player, like, not connected to the main game comes out, season
I don't want to fucking play
season 2.5. I don't want to spend $350 on a VR headset.
Someone on Twitter said we can borrow his.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. You got the tweet too. You were tagged in
I don't remember that. Dude, I have so many tweets nowadays, like many threads that people add us on that I'm like, why am I here?
I have like 1/3 of your followers, so I can I guess it's not as bad for me.
Well, it's I know it is that way though, because someone will tag us and then like Craig will answer it because it's a Craig question. And then like we'll still be there. Yeah. We'll still be there the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so I miss stuff, and that's the problem with Twitter is I miss stuff because of shit like that.
Just too many things.
Yeah, and they'll be like, and there's a few people who've asked like Diablo 3. They're like, I noticed it because I go through Twitter a lot, and it's like they asked Cameron and Craig about Diablo 3, and I'm like, Cameron's never even touched that game. Like, so the memories, we're all like becoming one unit in the Nude Clan. So I get added to stuff that I literally am not part of and never have been.
Yeah, someone said we could borrow his VR.
That is...
He just said we cannot use it for porn, which
Oh.
I'm disappointed with. It's not like I'm going to jack off on the VR. I mean, come on, guy.
Yeah, the thing's on your head. You don't want any of that near your face. Are you kidding me?
Well, unless we get two of them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, what he doesn't know won't hurt him. So as long as we say we.
Now he's like, ugh, I don't want to let him borrow.
Yeah, we just ruined it. That's awesome, though.
Let me find out who that was.
That's great that we're gonna have that opportunity because I just don't want to buy one for that. It's not enough of a pull. It really isn't. Resi 7 is playable front to back with VR though, which is a cool idea as a horror game. I think that's kind of like.
Well,
where
did
VR
you
should
want?
be.
Didn't you want to for Nude Clan go through all the Resident Evil games?
Kinda.
Kind of. Does anybody else on the team want to do that?
No, I don't
No.
think so. The tank controls turn them away. But, yeah, guys, if you haven't played 14, jump on. We still have the free company. It's still going strong. Tweet one of us, tweet Crinitol, somebody in the free company. We'll get you added. We'll get you help. We've got a couple new players, Dirk, Lance, and then a couple other guys that have joined that are really low level, and they're getting into the game brand new. So now is a great time to jump in, on the game. Like we've got new people that are going to be running through early game content alongside you. You guys can work out like times and stuff for dungeons. And learn the game together. It's a good time to jump in. It's never a bad time for 14. And if you want, you can just buy that potion for way too much money and advance to Stormblood and experience what you just heard us review.
Oh, there's a quick non-UFF related thing I want to say. So that movie that we made, the short film we made, Emmanuel's Song.
Oh yeah.
The Blu-rays are all ready to go. The DVDs are not though. So I've been slowly this week making DVDs during our 14 play. Frankly, I would go over and switch disc out and stuff like that. So if you're waiting on those, I think there's only a few people who are doing those. But if you're waiting on those, like it's coming. I thought it was going to be this week. It'll probably be the week after next.
Okay.
Because I got to print off the packaging and everything like that. Some people asked for DVDs, and I was just going to send them the Blu-ray, but then I was like, oh, shit, maybe they asked for DVDs because they don't have a Blu-ray player. Like, that is a possibility. They're probably not listeners to the show, so I don't know why I'm saying that, because they probably have a PS4. But
Yeah.
But that was a concern of mine. I was like, oh, I think I will have to send the DVD regardless. So that's happening. Anyway. It's too far back right now. I'm having troubles finding who said we could use
Oh, well, that's all right. Well, thank you to whoever said they would let us use it. That's awesome.
Yes.
It's an expense I didn't really want to undertake, so now we don't have to.
Yep.
Well, shit, guys. Yeah, you can find us on... You got anything else? You good?
No, man, I'm good.
All right.
I'm all good, except there's Nude Clan,
Yeah, of course.
Godzilla podcast,
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
super sexy dead fan fiction.
Yeah, never, yeah.
And then someone tweeted me this week. They said they really liked our last episode of Getting Fat with Kaleb and Joe, which is, of course, the Making of Emmanuel's Song podcast that we released a few weeks ago. So if you're one of those people who used to love that show a lot, there is some content in there. It's been a few weeks, though. You might already know about it, but...
Yeah, there is. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Ultima Final Fantasy. YouTube, you can catch the episodes replayed with all of our breaks and awesome behind-the-scenes chatter. YouTube.com/Ultima Final Fantasy. You can tweet me at UFF Podcast.
You can tweet me at Joseph DeGollier.
There's a ton of ways to support the show. We got a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Ultima Final Fantasy. We got some cool reward tiers. We got to start working on a little radio drama. We start writing... And the nice thing about this,
Someone
guys...
did it just to bring it up to that level.
They did,
they?
yeah. Stolas did it just to do that. But we need to start working on like little storylines, just outlines for the story.
Do you want to do this in parts, or is one big thing?
I think we can do it in parts.
Okay.
So we're going to sit down and storyboard Nice thing about the rewards, though, as you know, with the recent Dave Mustaine song that was earned. Yeah, just puke everywhere. That was earned a long time ago. The rewards stay, even if the pledges do not. So once we hit it, we hit it. So we are going to start working on that play, the UFFV FFU radio drama that I have been yearning for so long, yet I'm still unprepared.
Chase. Sorry.
Oh, it's Chase. Yeah,
Chase.
Yeah. We had him on.
Sorry, Slani.
We had him on recently.
That's right. Chasing a Final Fantasy dream.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chase. Your last name is insane. More insane than mine, I would say.
Probably. Yeah, I would agree. So yeah, you can find us on Patreon. Thank you to Sephi Ralph, great name, for your recent pledge. Goes to a great place. We really love it, and it helps to keep things running, keeps the cogs turning. You can also go to click through our site, ultimafinalfantasy.com. We got an Amazon link. If you order a lot of stuff online, you can order through there. We get a small kickback. It doesn't cost you a thing. Really easy. It's a great resource for us. And yeah, like I said, ultimafinalfantasy.com. Join the forums. Join the conversation. Sorry I didn't get the question from us to you up last week. I don't know what the hell happened there. Just spaced it. But our reviews are the only ones that matter anyway, right?
Oh, wow. Speaking of... We will actually put it on this. Give us your King's Tale review in case you're one of the 5 people who've played it.
Yeah, it's probably going to be done this week. I don't see how it can't be with it being like a 2-hour game. But let us know what you think, what you thought, if it's worthwhile. I know I've heard that it's not canon to the 15 storyline.
It costs no money, so
yeah, that's true. Well, it's worth the cost. But
yeah,
if it's worth playing, just let us know. Give us your opinions on that on the site and. Fuck yeah! I guess until then, enjoy the grind, the non-MMO grind, the side scroller beat 'em up grind.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. The show was produced by Joseph DeGollier and Caleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGollier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.